And you're good to go.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Today's the regular December workshop. So let's call to order and the clerk take a roll call, please, to verify we have a quorum.
Yes. Councilmember Bobbitt.
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland.
Present.
Councilmember Peterson.
Present.
Councilmember Nyhagen.
Present.
Councilmember Selby.
Present.
Councilmember Sherman.
Present.
Councilmember Trope.
Present.
Full house. Also, Mayor Hernandez, City Administrator Rizzatello, our Finance Director Brian Carlton, Police Chief Troy Tamaris, HR Manager Sean Doring, and Deputy Clerk Holm and myself. So we are good to go with the quorum.
Excellent. Thank you all again for making it so early on a December 1st. All right, let's go into the Pledge of Allegiance. So please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, liberty,
And justice for all.
All right, thank you. And Councilmember Nyhagen, will you start us off on the right foot, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful we can come together to do the meeting, the work of the city. We thank you for our staff, and Father, we ask that whatever we decide here tonight will be according to your will. And Lord, I would like to ask a blessing for those that are suffering from this terrible virus. Please put your arms around them and comfort them, I pray. And I thank you for all your goodness in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Marge. All right, so last workshop for 2020. Let's get right into the workshop topics. We have a number of them today, but no action will be taken. So let's start off with the 2020 winter event, and Ms. Holm is going to present to us.
Well, first we're going to show you the little video that Ms. Holm and Chief Tamaris worked really hard on, and it's going to be out there on social media.
I am Carolyn Holm, the Deputy City Clerk and Events Coordinator for the City of College Place. I am here today to announce the City of College Place first annual Light Up the Avenue event. This event features holiday display lights to help promote holiday cheer. We will have snowflakes on College Avenue, Christmas packages, stars, and lights all over our municipal campus to start off this year. Every year, we plan to add more holiday display lights. The city wanted to do something fun for the holidays despite the pandemic. Light Up the Avenue will occur Thursday, December 3rd at 5:30, where we will hold a virtual tree and display lighting ceremony that will be live on Facebook. Shortly thereafter, we will have small city vehicle parade tour through the City of College Place with Santa on our fire truck and Christmas music streaming. At 7:30 p.m., the night will be finished off with a spectacular fireworks display. Keep your eye to the sky as the fireworks will be set off at an undisclosed location. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you all.
Oh, that was so fun. Good job, good job.
So if anyone has any questions about the event, Carolyn is available for answers.
I think that was great. And you're sharing it already on Facebook, is that correct, and promoting it?
Yeah, we've put it on Facebook, Nextdoor, and Instagram so far. It's also on the website, and I created the brochure, which was in the video that Troy compiled together. And then also there's another small little brochure that has the parade route for where the vehicles are touring through the city. And then also on our website, I put a link so that people can open up the PDF so you can zoom it in and actually see where the route is. We've had, there was one question on Facebook about that, so.
Okay. And so does each department get to decorate their vehicles on their own, like, you know, have a little department light off kind of?
Well, I confirmed with Paul today that the guys are gonna light up the dump truck and the street sweeper. The two patrol cars, Troy just said they're gonna turn their lights on, and I think it's probably gonna be the same way for the fire truck with Santa.
Yeah.
But we were able to get some audio equipment from the university. The audio department over there lent us 4 speakers, a mixer, and a laptop. And one of their students actually compiled the Spotify Christmas playlist that we're going to be playing. That's a mix of, you know, older Christmas music with new, and so it's going to be pretty cool.
A little bit for everything, a bit for everybody. I think I saw Councilmember Selby's hand raised.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I just want to compliment you and the rest of the staff on the creative ways that you've been able to have events through the pandemic. Because it's like every week something else is canceled, you know, and yet you're still putting stuff together that'll be fun, that'll have people can drive down the avenue and see it. And I really appreciate it. And I'm just amazed at your creativity.
Well, thank you. But I have had a lot of help. I've been asking other staff members in the organization for their opinions. And so I can't really take all of the credit myself. Thank you, though.
I saw the water tower star and the lights yesterday, and it just made me smile all the way home.
So you saw the shrubs in the video. We were able to get part of that up, and we had them on so that Troy could use his drone for filming it. And just those lights on the shrubs are really, really cool in combination with the trees. I love seeing the lights. I'm pretty excited for it to all show.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yeah, how many of the streetlights will have a plugged-in snowflake, or what's the thoughts, or is it out there right now?
So we were able to purchase 15 snowflakes. We also obtained some, they're kind of ornaments. I don't know if you've been in downtown Walla Walla at all. They upgraded their ornament type style lights where they had stars and diamonds. And we're working with them to be able to use their old ones, which are perfectly fine. They're LEDs. But I'm still trying to find the holder to put on the lights on the poles. And a couple of the places I've looked at are sold out, and one wasn't able to meet our time frame. So I'm still working on it. They may not be on December 3rd, but it'd be really cool if we could get them up at some point.
Yeah. Thank you.
Which would add to the 15.
Yeah, and there's about 30 of those.
There's 60.
Oh,
There's
60
30 diamonds
30
and
each.
30 stars. Yeah. And they look really cool.
Good. Thank you.
I think people are really going to appreciate being able to see them as they drive through. So I'm going to just check with the other council members to see if there's any other questions or comments, and I'll go with Mr. Bobbitt first.
No questions.
Okay, Mr. Cleveland,
No questions.
Ms. Nyhagen.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, and then we're going to go to Ms. Sherman
No questions.
and Mr. Choate.
Questions.
All right. Okay, good job to all the staff. It really is making it festive, and I think it's really going to help people who are feeling so down about everything being so different. But looking outside, that's going to be exciting. Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Okay, let's move on to our second item regarding the International Association of Firefighters fiscal year 2021 to 2023 contract. And Mr. Rizzatello is going to discuss that.
Thank you. So yeah, hard to believe we've already been through 3 years of the past one already, but it was negotiating time again for the next 3-year period for the International Association of Firefighters contract. I would like to say I thank our local president, John Boost, for working with us on this, because one of the things that they do is we're able to talk about without getting attorneys involved like other work groups, and it just makes it go a lot more straightforward. So in this case, the key changes are under the information for consideration. Article 3. Any of your newer union contracts need to have language that reflects that Janus Supreme Court decision. And with the Janus decision, that pretty much says that like joining a union is up to the individual person. You can't be like compelled to. So that's Article 3. Article 17 has the proposed raises. When looking at what raises are for the comparable agencies, this keeps us in the middle of the pack. So 4% January 1st, 2021, 3% in 2022, and then 4% in 2023. Article 18, standby pager pay. That's just like per like shift where they aren't working. And then vacation accumulation. This just has some differentials in it, recognizing differences between work shifts. So 240 hours for your employees working like the standard shift, like your standard 8-hour shift. However, for those that are working a 24-hour shift, since it is harder, like Elway, especially when you are working those 24-hour periods, the accumulation shall not exceed 300 hours. Article 24, just some language around health insurance. So effectively, it would stay the same for families. With those with dependents, contribution without dependents, the contribution would be like $50 a month. And then Article 28, the term of agreement, that reflects just the dates of going 2021 and 2023. So those are the key changes within this contract proposal for the firefighters.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rizzatello. Let's go through our council members for questions and comments regarding the proposed contract. Mr. Bobbitt.
No questions.
Mr. Cleveland.
No questions.
Okay, Mr. Peterson.
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, Ms. Nyhagen.
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Selby.
Questions, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Sherman.
No questions.
And Mr. Trope.
No questions, thank you.
All right, well, Mike, thank you so much to you, and Mr. Booth, I know you're working so hard on that for the last couple of weeks and trying to make sure it was fair and equitable. So thank you for bringing that to us.
Yep.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the council and commissions meeting, likely virtual through mid-2021 at the minimum. So Ms. Neisel's going to discuss that for us.
Mainly, I just wanted to make you guys aware that the looks of things, the way things are going, and the fact that the governor has notified all of the state staff that work remotely that they should be prepared to continue doing so through the end of June 2021. So, we don't, because they don't, they don't change the proclamations out that far. So we'll probably be going a month at a time, just like we have been. But I want you to be aware that it looks very likely that this will be a minimum of through June, that we will be having remote meetings. I put some of the proclamations and the Safe Start phase reopening in there. And as you can see right now, just the people that we have in this Zoom meeting, we exceed the number that you can have in the same room, even in phase 3. And if we were to be allowed to have in-person meetings, we also would be required to allow the public in. And there's no physical way with the amount of space that we have and the rules for the phased openings, there's no physical way that we can legally accommodate that. So I know that sometimes the virtual meeting situation is frustrating, but I want you to be aware of the continuation of it being extremely likely into the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go for questions or comments, and let's start with Mr. Bobbitt. Anything for Lisa?
Make comments, but I'm going to refrain right now. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you for that. We are live.
Mr. Cleveland.
I'm pretty fine with it. I've kind of figured. I was just thinking that would it be possible to essentially say do a video broadcast with if people could gather outside the building, and if someone wanted to speak, they could enter? I don't know, I'm just thinking outside the box here.
That would be if we were ever allowed to have enough people that because staff and council members are included in those numbers.
Okay.
So we would have to have whatever the number would be. I think we've got 14 people in this meeting right now. And so we would have to be able to allow at least, I would say, 20 people in an indoor room for an extended period of time. And I don't see that happening in a while. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer or negative, because as soon as we can legally do it, I certainly will work things out where we can do that. But I don't want you guys thinking that
You're
it's
just
going to
being
happen
realistic.
in January.
We'll roll with it. At least I will. I can't speak for the other council members. So.
All right, let's go to Councilmember Peterson. Are you going to be able to roll with it?
No. It seemed like we could get creative with some combination of, and I think probably, Lisa, it's the whole, well, really not. It's a determination of a public meeting and public access, I'm guessing, but yet we can have public access now.
Right.
So, it's kind of interesting that we couldn't we wear our masks, 6 or 7 of us get in there, and everyone else is through video feed. In other words, the public could access us through some sort of a video throughput, and that other staff members perhaps could come in video. So we keep the numbers down to 6 or 7, let's say. You know what I mean, type of a thing. But having said that, I'm adapting to working at home occasionally too, and so we're all learning to adapt, and it's fine. I don't have a problem with it, but it seemed like we could have a workaround. But it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got 3 things really at play here. That is the governor's proclamation prohibiting in-person meetings, which
Yeah.
is affecting us right now. Once that is not affecting us, then we have the phased opening plan that restricts the number of people. And we have the Open Public Meetings Act that right now, part of that no in-person meeting proclamation also waives the requirement for us to provide a physical space for the public to attend. So once those proclamations, if those proclamations aren't extended, then we will be figuring something out. But I very much expect those proclamations to be extended. And as long as they are, we don't have the ability to figure out a workaround.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Thanks, Lisa.
Councilmember Nyhagen.
Yes, I kind of feel sad because in January, College Place will celebrate its 75th birthday and we can't have a party. So we'll have to think of something maybe we can do to make the community aware of our birthday.
Absolutely.
I believe that the Historic Planning Commission is working on that.
Oh, good, good, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Selby.
I guess I have a question kind of from the opposite direction. In the past, in public meetings, not necessarily here, we weren't allowed to come in by video. And so I'm wondering now if once we do get back in person, will we be able to, say if someone's traveling, still come in by video?
That is something
that's going to change.
Yes, good question. Right now, that proclamation that's in place also totally gives us the ability to come in remotely. It's been on my agenda for some time, and I will have it updated to add specifics related to electronic attendance at meetings into our council rules. And that I plan on presenting in January.
Great, thank you.
I'm gonna just take a step back to Councilmember Peterson.
There's the video, but we've always been able to phone in, correct?
Yes, phoning in is in your council rules.
So it's just an adept. We could modify that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just going to make it a little bit more expansive and detailed.
Okay. Thank you.
Good point. And I believe Councilmember Bobbitt.
Yes.
Your comment?
Isn't some of that new electronic participation covered in our parliamentary procedures that we're using?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I thought so.
Okay, so we'll go on to Councilmember Sherman.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, and Councilmember Trope.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. I have a quick question, and it's not so much about the council meetings, but Mike, could you share what staff is doing for the safety there at City Hall?
Yeah, so yes, I mean, as far as City Hall safety is going right now, we have schedules where we have staff that can work from home, socially distant, things of that sort. So with the CARES COVID money, we were able to get like additional laptops and things to that effect to get on a city network. So especially while we have this increase in case count, we did bring back that schedule where we try to keep it where for every staff person that is able to, they are in the office at least like around 2 days a week, can work from home the other 3. That is the goal. That's also trying to take into account there are some jobs that just don't lend itself well to working from home where they have to be there, and making sure there's enough room to safely allow for that, such as the administrative assistants answer the phones. So that's what we've been doing.
Okay, Thank you. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, we'll move on to the big item for tonight, our fiscal year 2021 budget by Mr. Carlton.
Great, thanks. I'll just bring up the presentation here. Give me a moment. So everybody, this is the third iteration of our 2021 budget. For the workshop, I took the comments from the last week's meeting and developed slides that are showing our costs and our revenues broken down by different types of activities. So I'll get into that a little bit later. I just want to bounce forward. I think I got this a little bit out of order, but I'm going to bounce down to the changes. So here we have the changes that were made since last week. Kind of small, but it does have an impact on the total amount of surplus or deficit for the entire city budget. So we had in the current expense fund, the 001, just a small adjustment totaling $21,338 favorable. Majority of that is we had a PD intern that is not going to be utilized next year that was in the original budget. In the IT area fund 012, there was some software purchases that were removed and potentially delayed. Under our wastewater, there was capital moved from one fund to the other, so that just affects, doesn't affect the total, but does affect fund balance. Under additional water projects, we had some adjustments through the funding resulting from changes in the capital and the CFP. Deshree went through and reconciled all the CFP amounts you approved last week and verified that those are all in Questica correctly and the different funding components are in accurately. And then one last additional change, one of the capital amounts was moved. That was the one under 401. There was a slightly different dollar amount that was in the original budget. So there was one additional change that wasn't in there. The net effect is 0, but it was the movement of the well number 2 funding and expenditures out of 2021 and into 2022, and that was just under $3 million. So that is 0 effect on the total budget, but it does have a $3 million impact on the revenue and expenditure numbers. So just to get you all up to speed, we've updated the capital expenditures and the funding, changed some of the current expense operating costs, and we've updated all the amounts in Questica.
Oops, wrong one.
This is where we stand with the total fund balance. You can see the deficit at the last meeting was at $596,000. With the changes in the capital and the reconciling of the CFP, some of those projects moved to next year. The surplus, the deficit is down to just over $113,000. Here's the detail by each fund. You're familiar with this chart, has beginning fund balance, the revenues, expenditures, any deficits, and the ending balance. There is a column that I'm not seeing because pictures are in my way. I did add a couple columns on there that shows where we were at last week and the changes that were input, which tie out to the page I just showed you a few minutes ago of the changes that we made since the last. So we're still dealing with the major impacts on the deficit side are the REIT 2 fund, which is 306, which is here, which is if you recall, is the amount that we are required to spend out of our own reserves for Lions Park. The other significant one is 411 under the wastewater capital reserve, which is our requirements by USDA of our own reserve monies of just over, well, it's just almost that dollar amount. It's like $560,000 of our own reserves are required under that project. So that's the major impact on majority of the funds. And you can see that there's the $113,000 deficit, which if you took out the two major projects that are having the deficit, we would actually have a surplus for the year. Moving on, here is our reserve policy numbers, pretty similar to what we had last week. Again, our current expense reserve fund is below our anticipated 10% of current expense revenue, but that is a target, and we are putting money into that next year. Around $75,000 is budgeted. So we are slowly increasing that. As you recall, that's only been around since 2018, I believe. The other one is our facilities maintenance reserve fund. The target is $300,000, and we'll be working. We have a lot of capital expenditures next year and fixing a lot of items that are in need of repair. So we'll be moving towards that target in future years. And all the other funds are operating within their target capacity. So these are the new slides. Oh, sorry, this is the changes. I already went through this slide. Here we have, this is the operating capital debt surplus deficit, and I did it for the current expense funds, the utilities, and the REIT fund to show you the split between operating capital and debt, as well as recurring and non-recurring amounts. Just so you can get a handle on that, we're having our expenditures that are recurring are below our anticipated revenues for the year. And as you can see under the current expense fund, we anticipate just over $7.2 million in revenue and $7.1 million in recurring expenditures. Capital in there is at $140,000. So as you can see, we are at a total surplus in the current expense fund of just over $26,000. The next group of funds is our street funds. You can see the recurring operating costs. We are at a surplus for the operating amounts, but we do have expenditures of a non-recurring nature within the operating that result in a drawdown in that fund. We also have our capital. You can see our revenue and expenditures result in a deficit in the capital area. Again, we have a large number of projects in the street fund. And we are still in compliance with our reserve requirements on the street fund, even at the drawdown of $167,000. Here, the next screen is the water funds. So there's a large number of funds there. Those entail both the operating, the capital, and the debt funds. You can see the breakdown here. In the operating side, we are operating at a surplus of just under $233,000. Our capital, we are operating at a surplus in that area as we are receiving funds through our reimbursements that were incurred the expenses were incurred this year, but we'll get the reimbursement next year. That's why the revenues exceed the expenditures. And then you can see that our debt amount is at a deficit, but that can be resolved by transferring more money from the operating. That's what funds the both actually the capital and the operating funds fund the debt service. The amount that transfers from the operating and capital accounts to debt is determined by our utility rate models, and the amount that's in there is the amount that's predicted in the utility rate models. So I anticipate that that deficit will reduce years going forward. The net result in the water utility is we are at a surplus in total of just under $240,000. The next slide is the wastewater. You can see again, we have a surplus in all our operating capital and debt funds. We are anticipating in the capital area is the flow through of the funds for the wastewater treatment plant. It gets split out between recurring and non-recurring on the financing. And you can see at the bottom on the capital under total wastewater that the deficit of $571,000, that, as I discussed earlier, is the amount of funding we're required to take out of our reserves for the Southwest Sewer project. And then our debt amount is currently operating at a surplus. Again, the amount of revenue is driven from our utility rate model, which we transfer from both the operating and capital accounts into the debt service. Overall, the wastewater fund still in total has a surplus of just over $53,000. The next slide is our stormwater funds. Again, our operating accounts, all recurring costs are showing a surplus of $248,000. Under the capital, you can see in the non-recurring, we do have a surplus there on the projects. The reason the revenue is exceeding the expenditures, again, is in relation to our utility rate model and the amount we show that's needed to be transferred to fund future projects. And same would be the same explanation for the debt, where our revenue is exceeding our expenditures. So overall, the stormwater utility is showing a $340,000 surplus in the budget for next year. The final one I presented is our REIT, which is our real estate excise tax funds. Both 1 and 2, I combined them. You can see our revenue reoccurring does exceed the reoccurring expenditures. But again, we have our capital, that's the Lion Spark project. Under the non-recurring, shows a deficit of $610,000. That is our portion of the amount we'll be funding that project, anticipated funding. So that's the drawdown of $396,000 that we anticipated. And as you recall, those funds have been accumulating for the last couple of years in order to fund that $610,000 deficit. Is there any questions so far?
None.
Be clear.
I don't
I'm
see
hoping
it.
this is what the information you were looking for.
Councilmember Peterson has some questions.
So Brian, many of those funds have a look forward on capital expenditures, don't they? As you were explaining those. Our look forward is how many years right now on wastewater, stormwater? Is that like a 5-year up forward look? Or
It's the same as the CFP at 6 years.
6 years? Okay.
Yeah, and it uses the numbers that are in the CFP.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay. And as you recall, that was the rate models were presented a couple months ago, Council. Sorry, sorry. So I just updated these slides from the prior presentation just to show you the split in our proposed revenues for 2021. Of course, the big numbers are our loan proceeds is a big number, $6.7 million. Again, a majority of that money is Southwest Sewer Project. Charges for goods and services, that's all basically our utility charges for $6.8 million. And property tax as sent to the county at just under $2 million. Retail sales tax at 1.7, which was reduced from our original budget amount. It was at about 1.9 million. And we're going to be, there's only 1 month left for us to, just for December sales tax, and we should be close to the over 1.6 million. So definitely 1.7, I believe, is attainable. And that was brought up at a concern in our first iteration that are we being too optimistic on our revenue growth. Mike and I have discussed that at length, and we feel that they're quite appropriate given the trends. And again, hopefully we come out of COVID and can get going again, and that'll be a big factor of how long that lasts. Here's just a different perspective on the revenues, showing the trend from 16 through the proposed 2021. And I've talked briefly on where we're at on the increases. We've discussed them in the prior. We're definitely anticipating an increase in our permits and licensing. Hopefully that construction goes forward next year and we make that $2 million. We were at, we did anticipate based on the growth at 2.1 million in 2020 budget and forecasted at 1.7 million this year. And I did highlight the $6.7 million because that reduced from the prior iteration due to the flow of funding for well number 2 moving from 2021 to 2022. So that dropped from, I believe, $9.7 million in loan proceeds down to the 6.7. And I know it doesn't show on here, but that is the expenditures. Something happened to my chart title. Again, a summation of all the expenditures throughout all the funds. Wastewater being the big expenditure next year with over $8 million going to the Southwest Sewer. This same slide as was presented last week, showing the different funding sources. We're showing we have to, just under $13 million in funding from various sources. And all the projects for next year. As you can see, the $7.6 million funding required for the Southwest Sewer project. And that includes all the different funding sources, including USDA, ecology, our portion, the Port 09 grant, etc. And the big change here was last week's presentation had the well number 2 location here at the just under $3 million, which that's been That's been moved to 2022. So that's where we're at. Of course, in the packet is included the summary as well as all of the detail line items of the entire budget for your viewing. If you have questions about that, you can let me know now, or follow up with email. The next step is our final hearing and adoption meeting next week. I don't anticipate, we're gonna go through, Daisha and I are gonna go through line item by line item and verify that all the numbers are correct, and we'll tie out some of the numbers again, just to make sure they're accurate, but I don't anticipate there being any major changes before next week's meeting. That's it. Any
All right.
questions?
Thank you. So let's go through council members for questions. Mr. Bobbitt.
Looks complete and thorough to me.
Thank you.
Mr. Cleveland.
No questions, but awesome job. Very large task. Thanks for all your hard work.
Mr. Peterson.
No questions.
Okay, Ms. Nyhagen.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Selby.
I just wanted to say I appreciate you breaking things up better. It was much easier for me to follow this week. So thank you, but I have no questions.
Ms. Sherman.
Questions?
And Mr. Trope.
I liked it too. I thought the way he presented it was very clear. I did have one question. I don't know that it's subject to the budget. Back in January, I believe it was, we talked about putting together a position of our debt or leverage. Is that something we can see sometime?
Yeah, I'll have that for next meeting.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Now, I do want to mention that Mike and Brian have been working on this in the middle of an audit, which there's been a number of emails going back and forth requesting. So it's been a lot of work getting this done on time along with that audit. So thank you, gentlemen, very much, because I know it's been quite difficult. I've been seeing those emails. So thank you both very much for your hard work. Okay, so we're gonna move on. Before closing, there is a discussion. Marge, did you want to bring up your question?
Yes, I had a question about our last meeting of the month. Since it's just a couple of 2 or 3 days from Christmas, I wondered if we might cancel that, because some of us will be gone and some of us will have family in. So I wondered if we might not cancel that. And I'd also like to say, if any of you have anybody that you know that needs food, or children need some toys or things, please let me know, because I have a resource to help them. Okay, thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, Marge. Ms. Neisel.
Yes, provided the budget is passed, then we will have an agenda item at the next meeting to cancel that meeting.
Thank you.
Excellent. Councilmember Selby.
Yeah, what I was going to say was that's the carrot they always hold out, that if we get the budget passed, we don't have to go to that meeting.
Nice.
It'll be nice to start the new year with the budget passed. Won't that be wonderful?
Absolutely. Okay. Is there any other business for the good of the order?
I was just going to make a comment with what we saw tonight on the budget. I don't think we're going to have a problem.
No.
As long as we have a quorum next week.
One way or another, we'll have a quorum.
Thanks to Mike for getting all those grants.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be inappropriate to skip next week's meeting, I think.
All right.
I've been here a lot of years, and I want to tell you, we have never had a finer staff than what we have now.
Hear, hear.
Thanks.
It is quite excellent.
Yes.
Oh, look, see, now he turns on his camera so we can make it.
Yeah, yeah.
I just had to prove, to you I was here.
Oh, yeah.
Pat yourself on the back, Chief.
And you.
Yes.
All right. Is there any other item? Okay, if not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Don't move.
Great. We have a great first and a second. If there's no objections, then the meeting is adjourned at 6:20 p.m. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next week.